Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast, your highest source of sacred truths and universal wisdom. Hello, beautiful souls. I'm Rachel Fiori, mystic, spiritual teacher, psychic healer, and founder of Masters of Self University. Join our journey of soul transformation as we deep dive into this latest episode. Happy 2024, everybody. Welcome to Masters of Self University podcast. I'm Rachel Fiori, your host for this episode. I am going to share 2024 predictions, things that I have been seeing. And this is part one. There's just so much that I am going to make two parts to this. So let's dive in. 2024, I couldn't explain to you. I couldn't even begin to explain to you my level of excitement for 2024. I am beyond excited for 2024, and I am so grateful that it is officially here and we're in it. It started. Okay, so let me tell you, because I can barely contain my excitement for 2024. So I see 2024 as being a year of extremes. I just see extremes, extremes, extremes. And you might be thinking, hold on, time out. Haven't we had the last several years of like extremes? I see extremes in our options, extremes in our choices, extremes in our timelines. So I'm going to explain what I mean. So here's the first thing where I'm going to start. Now, this is what I'm about to share is what is laid out before me in 2024, but it bleeds over into 2025, and even I see it bleeding over into 2026. I'm going to be as clear as I possibly can be with what's being shown to me right now. If there is anything specific that I see moving into 2025 or 2026, I'm happy to share that. I'll specify that. For right now, the majority, generally speaking, of what I'm to share is everything that I see happening in 2024. All right. What I'm being given. So here's what I mean by extremes. So I'm going to give you an analogy. My husband and I were hanging out with a couple of our really close friends, a couple of the Masters of Self University certified coaches on New Year's Eve. And I was sharing what I saw for 2024. So as I was sharing, we were talking about, I'm like, I should really do a podcast on this. So here I am. So anyway, here's my analogy. Imagine going to a buffet. Okay. I want you to literally, I'm asking you to imagine this. So you go to a buffet and everything is available. Everything under the sun is available. This buffet is very unique, very special. Okay. So let's start with an example of at this buffet where you can get literally anything, and you're not going to eat every single thing in that entire buffet. This buffet is like a scene from Harry Potter, like one of the Harry Potter movies. Everything you could possibly imagine under the sun that you couldn't possibly eat in, a meal a day, let alone a meal, right? Everything magical that you can imagine at this buffet. As well as at this buffet, there is a meat section, for example. Okay, so let's start here. There's a meat section. And in one part of the meat section, just in the meats, it's actually several different sections, several different categories in the meat section. So first of all, you have your meat where, the animals are in these horrific conditions. They were tortured and abused their entire lives. They're filled with nothing but poisons and hormones, the most horrific things that exists in our farming industry. And those are options. So you could go there and you could choose the poison, where animals were tortured and treated in the most horrific, inhumane ways, like our regular farming industry. And that's an option. And then you have another option in the meat section, and you can choose meat that is um, from regenerative farms, humanely raised, and humanely isn't even the word for it. It's they're animals and they are treated like animals. They get to live out an animal life. They're not fed anything terrible or harmful to them. Um, Everything is, you know, I even hate to use some of these words, just because the way they've been twisted and turned around and used and manipulated. But like free range, for example, can be very manipulated. Free range in the first example that I gave you. Oh, yeah, this is free range. And then you have like a billion fucking chickens packed in on top of each other. That's not fucking free range. Goddamn assholes in the fucking meat industry. Um, but this, what I'm talking about, regenerative farms, healthy meats, animals are treated really well. They're able to live out a normal, healthy animal life. And yes, they are still, their lives are used and taken to be used as food. Okay. So there's that option. All right. And then you have let's say a vegan meat. So part of the meat section is vegan. So here's all your substitute, meat products where you can have your fillets and your steaks and your whatevers, and no harm, no, killing of an animal. Animals are not used in any way, shape, or form. But here are your um, fake meat options, your vegan meat options. Okay. So you have all these options. Make sense? Same thing with vegetables, you guys. Same thing with all the rest of the kind of food that you can eat at this special magical buffet. You have your toxic, poisonous, laced with pesticides, where it's all going to create, organ failure, diseases in your body over time, just like that first section of the meat section, right? Going to cause diseases, and then you're trapped in the pharmaceutical sick, quote unquote healthcare system where you're sick and they make you sicker and they keep you sick because they want to trap you in the system of enslavement and all that goes on. So those choices are going to keep you trapped in that kind of world. Your choices of food at this buffet. And then there's all the rest of things like the beautiful, sustainable farming, food choices, healthy, wonderful, blissful, that heal your body, purify your body, all of certain organic produce on regenerative and sustainable with sustainable farming practices, etc. Like they have healthy water, no water is used that is poisoned with, pharmaceuticals put in it and fluoride and all the shit that they do to our water. Do you understand that everything under the sun at this buffet is presented to you and you have free will choice? You with me on this? Okay. 2024. This is why I'm saying extremes. I see it as a year of extremes. Think about the extreme options you have and everything in between at this buffet. 2024, here's how I see it. You're going to see more things uncovered, more things come to the surface. Of course, that's part of this global transformational awakening ascension process. Humanity needs to awaken. So that's going to continue to happen. Um, People in celebrities, famous people, people in government are going to continue to be exposed for the things the choices that they make, the type of quality or lack thereof of human they are. Do you understand? I think more things are going to come up to the surface, more things are going to be exposed and revealed. But here are your choices. The choices that you have in 2024 is like the buffet analogy that I gave you. And I believe all of the choices, the the I don't want to say infinite possibilities, but it is kind of infinite potentialities of the kind of person you want to be, the type of earth, what dimensional frequency of earth do you choose, do you want to live in? All of your choices are going to be laid out for you in 2024. And I mean the extremes, from the type of food that you eat to the type of music that you listen to, social media that you consume, to the type of person that you are, how you treat others, how you treat yourself, how you treat animals, how you treat this planet. All of the options are going to be laid out for you. You just get to choose. You're at a buffet, this magical buffet. You choose any kind of person you want to be, any kind of life you want to live, the type of government you want to be governed by. You get to choose it all. All the options are laid out in 2024. You will see the people who, uh, you know, are love demons and Satan and worship, demonic entities and get all of their, wealth and fame and fortune because they're selling their soul to the devil, Satan, and all this kind of crap. Um, the sex trafficking. Oh, you want to be a person who promotes that and participates in a world that has that. You promote the men raping babies and children and women, murder, serial killers, violence, war. Yes, look at those options that have already been presented to us like we didn't know they existed already. We had to be reminded of them, I know, because we're starting to wake up and be a little more peaceful and loving with one another. Let's throw a couple more wars in there to make sure we remember that's not the case. So these are all options. Do you understand? The abuse and torture of animals. Look at what happens in certain parts of the world with the dog meat industry, the level of fucking torture that are done to these precious beings. Okay. So their choices. Hi, that's a choice to participate in that type of world. You with me? Okay. Before you will not understand what's to come next, what I'm going to share with you if you don't get what I'm sharing with you now. I know some of you are like, okay, get on with it already. And I know some of you, I'm giving you a little bit of time to catch on, to really understand. If you want to go worship demons, you can go worship demons. If you want to torture animals, whether you're doing it yourself or you're paying other people to torture animals, you can do that. If you see a dog hit by a car or an animal hit by a car suffering in pain, laying on the side of the road, and you just drive the fuck on by and don't do shit about it, what programs are you running? What vibrational frequency do you actually choose to be, to live in? If that's what you're choosing. I'm not saying this to put anybody down. I'm not shaming anybody. Don't you dare misunderstand my teachings. Call your ass out in that real quick. I'm presenting this to you to teach you to awaken a little bit more about what type of reality you're creating and choosing to live in. So you're choosing dismissiveness, disengagement, a lack of validation, that your life, certain lives don't fucking matter. When you see an animal injured and you don't stop and disrupt your plans for the day and do what you can to get help, be the help that animal needs, be the rescuer, the savior, the love that that animal needs you to be in that moment. For example, just one example. Just fucking drive on by. Who gives a shit? Not my problem. Why? Because that life is inferior to you. Oh, so you're living in a reality of inequality. That life on the side of the road is inferior to your life. That your plans, wherever you're going to in this moment, are more important than that suffering sentient being on the side of the road. That you choose to pay for torture of animals with the type of practices in our regular grocery stores that offer meat products, for example, or dairy. Do you understand? You know this is what goes on. You fucking choose to participate in it anyway. I don't say that again. I'm not judging. I'm not shaming. I really want this to be clear. You're making a choice of what kind of world, earth, dimensional earth you want to live in, that you are participating in, that you are helping to co-create by what you choose to participate in, listen to, practice, consume. Do you understand? Now we're getting it. Now we're getting it. So 2024, I see all of the extremes, every goddamn potentiality, which means every vibrational frequency that you could possibly choose to participate in. This includes, it's all going to be laid out for you and you get to choose. This includes bullshit pseudo spiritual practices. Pseudo spiritualism. Oh, I have a podcast about spirituality, so I'm a spiritual teacher. What the fuck? Really? What have you done as an initiate, as a servant of oneness consciousness, as a servant of the one of all that is, to learn from and become and evolve into, that actually, in the way of truth, in the way of loyalty, in the way of purity, in the way of wisdom, allowed you to fulfill that role of becoming. You've become that, or you just say you are because it sounds great and special and I get the followers and the likes. You're living in pseudo spiritual practices when you do this kind of crap. Oh, look, I'm a coach now. I have zero experience. I've no experience in working with couples. I have no education. I have no training. I just feel like I want to be a relationship coach because it makes a lot of money and that's what people are into. And then you suddenly are one. You have that choice. Doesn't that lack integrity? Doesn't that lack wisdom? What reality are you participating in when you make these types of choices that are irresponsible, that are immature? Do you see it? Okay. Everything in 2024 I see as massive amounts of choices, just infinite potentials laid out before you. So here's what comes with that. I see the earth splitting way more in extreme in 2024. That's why the extremes are going to happen, because I see the earth splitting more to where we are going to separate in two main categories of dimensions. Two main categories. We've been seeing this. This has been happening. This has been happening. And I see it way more extreme in 2024. That by the end of 2024, I see there being a complete split, or possibly the complete split of these two categories could end up being in 2025. Like I see a bleed over into 2025. So I'm not sure when that final complete split is going to happen. Do not mistake what I'm saying for the new earth is fully formed and functioning by like next year. That's not what I'm saying. So stay with me and hear me out, okay? Because this is important. So before you end up on the dimension, the earth, the new earth, for example, that you would like to end up on, okay? We're nowhere near that yet. I mean, years away. In the grand scheme of things, we're fairly close. But years away from that. This is what I'm seeing is going to happen prior to that final phase, if it makes sense to say it that way. That final phase where you are now on the dimension, the new earth. I'm going to break this down and explain to you in a minute. That final phase of that, that's still, likely years away, still see it as years away. This is what's happening to get us prepared and ready for that final phase, so to speak. Okay. So I see the next phase of extremes coming to the surface, all of these options of what you get to choose, what kind of person you want to be, what kind of earth you want to live on, and the thousands of dimensions of earth, versions of earth that there are, because they already exist. They already exist. So what I see in 2024 at some point is this extreme splitting of two main categories. And for now, I'm going to call it just old earth and new earth. It's not the final phase, but stay with me. Now, the old earth, I see that once we get to that final split, the old earth is war, destruction, a corrupt government that enslaves, education that is bullshit, system of indoctrination and more enslavement, brainwashing, the whole nine. Everything that we say we're waking up from and breaking free from, quote unquote, the matrix, which is that third dimensional matrix of enslavement, separation consciousness matrix, that people are choosing to continue in. That still exists. It's not like that's going to go away. It could go away if everybody would choose to wake the fuck up and not tolerate it, not be a part of that dimension anymore. Guess what? People are still going to worship fucking Satan, demons, and sex trafficking, and eating babies, and sacrificing people, and murdering and raping, and the whole nine, wars, blah blah blah. That's there. Those are realities. Do you understand? They are realities. torturing animals, abusing animals, neglecting animals, torturing and destroying and raping Earth, the destruction of the planet. So that those are realities. Okay. So that massive split, racism, sexism, misogyny, patriarch, domination, control, all of that I see if you are anywhere participating in any frequencies, guys, you don't have to be literally raping women in order to fall into the category of this category A, the old earth, the fucked up, negative, dysfunctional 3D matrix type of earth. You don't have to be violently murdering or harming or raping somebody to fall into that category. And this is where most people have been fucking duped is you think, well, I mean, I'm not raping anybody. You live in the vibrational frequencies that create that type of society. If you are addicted to porn, if you think women are inferior to you, if you live as a man who objectifies women and you look around and you're fucking staring at tits and asses all day and you're lusting after women, that is objectification, which is dehumanization. Guess what those vibrational frequencies lead to? Rape culture, inequality. Hello. So guess where you're going to fucking end up? You don't have to be somebody who actually kidnaps a woman and keeps her as a sex slave for 3 weeks before you murder her to end up on the old earth frequencies. You are those frequencies. You are promoting that type of world because of the choices and the vibrational frequencies that are in the same 3 octaves away from those violent acts. You think the energy you're creating isn't violent energies of inequality and oppression when you're doing the objectification, the dehumanization, the inferiority, superiority. I'm superior to women. I objectify them. That is what creates the old fucking earth. Though that's where it starts. Some people just take it to more of an extreme. Those frequency, you need to understand this energetically. If you are vibrating in those frequencies, that split, when it happens, you're on that old fucking earth. Good luck, have fun. That was your choice. You chose to end up there. Whether it is an unconscious, subconscious choice or a very conscious choice, you have made your choice. And we are getting to a time period on this planet where that your final choice is being made for you. You're making it. You cannot go back once you make it because we're going to split. So all of those people that end up there, okay, old earth, the fallen earth, good luck, good riddance, because that's going to happen sometime in 2024. I don't know if that's going to be one of the things that carries over into 2025. I'm seeing like a couple of big, massive things, maybe 2 or even 3 big, massive things that are going to influence that particular timeline. I don't know if that timeline is a dead set, like by summer 2024, by New Year's next year, between 2024 and 2025, or, a few months into 2025, that massive split will happen. I'm not sure. I think it's going to happen. The way I'm seeing it is that there is a very strong probability that is going to happen sometime in 2024. I'm seeing the strong probability of it. You need to understand as I say that there are influences and choices of people. And guys, we co-create all this shit. This isn't a passive process. We are literally creating this as we go. We are co-creating it as we go. And because of that, there's a lot of variables and influences that will impact when this massive split will be, this phase of the splitting will be completed. Okay. So as of right now, I see one possibility, a probability of there's a strong probability it could happen by summer 2024. I also see it as a potential of later in the year towards the new year, more towards 2025. And then I see this bleed over into 2025 and like a continuation of it. I can't explain in more detail what that means because I don't know. That's just what I'm getting for now. Okay. So from this point, Whenever that massive splitting in two, boom, happens, okay, now let's forget about the old Earth and all the people that chose to be there, whether consciously or unconsciously. You make your choices every day. Now I'm going to explain that part. Okay. Within that splitting, there are now, for example, 1,000 dimensions of Earth that you can still choose from. Okay. And don't get hung up on 1,000. The number is probably infinite. The number could be 20 Earths you could choose from. I don't know. But there's just multiple upon multiple options of the Earth dimension that you choose, and all of it is based on vibrational frequency. So that means you make it, remember, this isn't final phase new Earth. You've made it through the split. You're on fallen Earth, Earth A, and then Earth B. Lump it into one general category of a new Earth. Now, from here, there are still, we're going to break it down, break it down, break it down into dimension after dimension after dimension after dimension of all variations of what Earth can look like for you. Okay. So once this split happens, I see us making choices. You are going to be presented over this next year with these extreme choices. Remember the whole buffet. Now, what comes with that, what I see, is a lot more mental illness, what we would call mental illness, even though it's not literally. Some of it can be. Bipolar diagnoses, people that are in a lot of confusion, because they're back and forth in all these different frequencies and dimensions. It's like 1 minute there's this negative thing, and they're in inequality, inferiority, dehumanization, and then the next minute they're like, wait a minute, that feels gross. I want to choose. You will be presented with all of these options. You will be tested, you guys. Oh my God, you're going to be tested in 2024. You have to stop living in victim consciousness and this fucking pseudo spiritual bullshit passivity crap. Okay. That's not the way of surrender. That's not flow with the universe when you're just being passive with everything. Well, and you're just sitting there like a lazy ass on the fucking couch waiting for something to come to your door and come to you, instead of you actively participating in the world around you, actively co-creating the kind of person you want to become, which means the kind of world you want to live in. They are one and the same. If you run programs of anger and rage and judgment and criticism, you are literally over this next year, you are going to be creating the vibrational frequency of an earth dimension that you will end up living on for the rest of your life, that is filled with negativity and judgment and criticism. And maybe on that earth, that particular dimension that you are creating for yourself, you're going to end up with all other people who vibrate with those similar frequencies. Constant judgment and criticism and competition and all that kind of crap. That's where you're going to end up. And this next year, especially, you are literally creating for yourself the earth dimension that you're going to end up on. It is more specific than just old earth, new earth. You are creating a specific dimensional frequency that you will end up on spending the rest of your life existence, this incarnation, on. Okay. So if you want one of harmony, you better start getting the education, a new earth of oneness consciousness, the way of harmony, which includes all 20 universal ways of oneness, for example. Okay. If you want to live in a dimensional earth that exists as oneness consciousness, where communities are created and formed, where all the trees in your community and your neighborhood are fruit and food trees, among other trees. Everybody gets, free food for the most part. It's like everybody works together in harmony to create things. that benefit everyone. If you want the healthcare that, should be accessible to absolutely every person and everybody works together in harmony, everybody unites together in all the 20 ways of oneness, in the way of responsibility, in the way of truth, harmlessness, and gentleness, in the way of honoring of all beings. If you want to live in a magical, you know, uh, universe of the way of truth, which is we are all mystical, magical beings that have souls. Trees have souls, for crying out loud. There are nature beings that you will be able to see and interact with finally with your physical eyes on a new earth where it's oneness consciousness, the 20 universal ways of oneness reign. It's like when everybody lives with that framework, the type of education you're educated in schools, education is priceless. Let's not mistaken what education is versus the old third dimensional educational system of indoctrination and enslavement. They're not the same fucking thing. You have to be the way of wisdom and know that by now. Isn't education? There's nothing. It's not the education that is the problem. It's our educational system of slave owners that brainwash people to give the type of lies and lack of education. They're just brainwashing and shaping you into becoming a slave. That is a system. That isn't education itself. Education itself is absolutely priceless. Every goddamn person should be educated and taught from the time they're born. Hello, parents are their first divine teachers of the souls that were born into that family. That baby, you're the divine teacher, the first divine teacher of that baby, that divine soul having a human experience incarnating as a baby. You are their first teacher, parents. That's what you're supposed to be on a new earth of oneness consciousness. You will have prepared for that role on that earth, the highest level of enlightenment where people function in every way of oneness and become every universal way of oneness, all 20, and they live their lives by those ways. The framework of how you live is always based on that, on compassion, on trust, on selfless service, on equality. And those are vibrational frequencies. It isn't what you think that means in your mind. Unconditional love. So, for example, you have a child, there's no such thing on that earth in oneness consciousness, an enlightened earth, that you just automatically get married and have babies. It's fucking brainwashing bullshit. No, if your soul's purpose in this lifetime is to have a child and raise a child, do you understand? That is your soul's purpose. That means everything that you are about is to raise a child or children. Your whole life is devoted to raising that child or children that you choose to have, and that you spend years in preparation, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, educationally, years preparing for your role as that soul's first divine teacher. Husband and wife, father and mother alike, both choose this together in union with one another in oneness consciousness. It is our mission, our soul's mission, to raise the next generation and to raise them from an enlightened vibrational frequency of the 20 ways of oneness. This is one type of enlightened earth that is the earth of oneness consciousness that will exist. There is no more in that particular dimension where you just haphazardly have kids. You have no fucking idea how to raise them, and you just fly by the seat of your pants and hope for the fucking best. How reckless, how selfish. That's not selfless service. How irresponsible. No such thing. Oh, I think it'd be cool to have a pet. You just randomly go grab an animal and then have no idea what it needs, how to care for it, how to nurture its soul, how to nurture it emotionally, how to be the leader that it needs you to be, how to become what you need to become for that particular animal to be in your family. There's no more pets on this earth. We're too enlightened for that. Family members, and family members are of all kinds, all races of people, all types of animals, right? You can have family members that are goats that are cows, that are dogs, that are birds, never in a fucking cage. Never in a fucking cage. Unless you happen to own a sanctuary and you're rehabilitating and it's necessary for the safety and the rehabilitation of that animal who needs you. Selfless service, loyalty, ways of oneness. Does this make sense? I'm giving you an example of one dimension of Earth that is being created as we speak. And you can choose to become a being that vibrates and ends up there. Or you can choose to become a being that vibrates at the frequency and ends up somewhere else. So here's how I'm being shown some this is going to happen. I don't care what your relationships are right now. I don't care what your friendships are, your loved ones, your family members, your spouses and partners. If you are vibrating at significantly different frequencies, there will come a time when you will be split. You guys, listen to me carefully. There is overlap of people of all different frequencies. There's overlap. You will still see people of that third dimensional, unconscious, violent, horrific, terrible earth that we've all been exposed to, that separation consciousness earth that we've all been exposed to and all come from, all born into, the way it's been for centuries. Okay. And you'll still have overlap of people like that. Less and less, but you'll still have that overlap. You need it. You need to see all your options. You need to see your options. You're at the buffet, remember? Why don't you prefer to live that way? What programs and traumas and unhealed shit are you still running? Do you still have that you need to alchemize so you don't end up continuing to be around people like that, see people like that, be exposed to people like that, to learn lessons that you haven't yet learned, or to heal some of the vibrational frequencies that are actually similar to those assholes over there that you don't want to admit about yourself. Irresponsibility. It's not the way of responsibility. Way of responsibility. Do I have anything even remotely close to what's going on with that freaking jackass? Because if so, I'm to learn from that person and evolve out of that. Do you see it? These are what beings, initiates of oneness consciousness, becoming that enlightened frequency. When you're becoming that, this is how you function. You don't judge the person over there. You learn from the person over there. See the difference? Okay. So what I'm seeing is you are making your choices, whether you realize them or not. So I encourage you to become as conscious as humanly possible over this next year. Do the real work, the shadow work on yourself. See what programs are running that are not divine. If you don't want to be stuck in an earth dimension that you don't particularly love, it isn't heaven on earth. It's not paradise for you. If you don't want that, you better do the work and you better amp it up over this next year, because you will have a point where your choice is made, it is done, finalized. You picked the car you want to buy, you paid for it, you drove off the lot, and you can never return that car. That is the car you're driving now for the rest of your life. Do you understand? That is the vibrational frequency. I see that happening over the next year, again, possibly into 2025. Like final decisions of what dimension you're then going to start to go towards. And then when you're in that dimension, you're going to create more and more of what that dimension looks like. You're a co-creator. All right. So what I see are people that are your loved ones, your spouses. You guys, I see a lot of things. If your spouse is lagging behind and you're awakening, your partner's lagging behind on a very different frequency than you, and you're awakening and you're continuing your awakening, there's no such thing you're going to be together. Oh, but we're meant to be. Fuck you. You're not. You lack wisdom. I say fuck you with love, of course, with unconditional love and no judgment. I'm not judging you. I'm shaking you to wake you up. Okay? I don't care how long you've been together. I don't care if you're meant to be together. This kind of ignorance, this wishful wanting, I'm in my ego crap. Mature, grow up. And if not, that's okay. I'm not judging you. I'm not forcing you. I'm teaching you so that you understand what options are being laid out before you over this next year. You're not here to force anybody to wake up. Guess what? So many people aren't, which is why you're seeing the options now. It's not fair. It's like taking really pure, loving, wonderful, harmlessness, gentleness type people and putting them in a neighborhood where it's a gang neighborhood and forcing them to live in the trauma and the violence and the fear. Like, that's not gonna be anymore. That's all fucking going away because unfortunately, the majority of humans still choose that type of life, that type of living. Does that make sense in that analogy? And the rest of humans who are waking up and they're harmlessness and gentleness and they're loving and they're supportive and they unite, they don't live in separation. They live in community and they love everybody. None of this bullshit like your skin color fucking matters. This fucking ignorance. Ah, the way we love to create separation in so many fucking ways. The battle of the sexes fucking bullshit. All ugh. If that's what you choose, that's where you're gonna end up, and then you're gonna experience that the rest of your because you learn whatever you need to learn from that. Or you can choose to vibrate and become the frequency of harmony, of oneness, of unity, of unconditional love, of patience, of purity, of wisdom, etc., selfless service, and live in harmony with everyone and embrace everyone, and everybody loves each other and supports each other and helps each other when someone falls from grace or someone goes through a tough lesson or makes a massive mistake, and you're supported by your community and you're held accountable, but with no judgment. Okay. That earth exists. Which one are you going to? So if your partner, if your spouse, if your loved ones, family members, siblings, I don't care who they are. I don't care if you're best friend for 50 years. If you're at drastically different vibrational frequencies, process and say goodbye now. Emotionally process it. Say goodbye. You can choose to stay low and not let go of your spouse or partner or your loved one or your family member. You can choose that. Your free will choice. It's all of this is your choice. Something will happen to rip you apart. We still see that overlap, as I mentioned before. You'll still see these people for a while. What I am seeing is sometime, and I don't know concretely when, because I don't think there is I don't think it's possible to have a concrete end right now. Like, I think it's a variable. Um, and I could just not fully see it yet, and I could not be accurate. But I don't see that concrete, boom, done. I don't see when that precise timeline is. Not that we don't have to see it, doesn't matter. I'm just sharing that I don't have that. And what that means is when that timeline, when that does actually happen though, at some point, you guys, there is no more overlap. Do you understand? You will never see those people again. They will not be in your existence. You will not function in that type of government anymore. It will be gone. And in your reality, you will just see, you will experience the reality that got rid of that type of corrupt, fucked up, psychotic, government that's fake and just steals all your money and lives off of you and enslaves you to go to work all the time so that you can just pay them to live their lives. Like, you will see in your reality based on your choices. Now, how do you create this? I'm going to do a part 2. But it's really important you understand this part before you go to part 2. You try to just create. Okay, how do I get to the earth I want to be on? You won't be able to achieve it if you don't understand this part. Okay? So how do you create that? Wait for part 2. And as I wrap things up for this episode, I just really want to hit home that at some point you will not overlap with those people, because unconsciously, subconsciously, or very Conscientiously, you're making choices. You are always making the choices of the vibrational frequencies of the earth, the dimension you're going to choose to end up on. And at some point, where you end up is where you end up. There is no fucking changing it. You cannot change it at a certain point. This flip-flopping back and forth I see in 2024, because all of those options, you're going to be exposed to so much and so many extremes. I see people, that's where the mental illness, if you're trapped in your mind still, I can see people really suffering, being confused, being diagnosed with bipolar, feeling unstable, not grounded. Like you have to ground and connect to the divinity that you are in this next year. You have got to evolve enough where you are not influenced by what you witness or hear or see. Okay. And what practices you can do to ensure that you are becoming the vibrational frequency of the dimensional earth that you want to end up on once that timeline hits and there's no more takebacks. You can't change your mind at a certain, oh, God damn it, I should have gone higher. No, right now, go higher. Right now, this moment. Start this fucking minute right now. This is when you go higher, not once it's too late. You have to be more powerful and more mature than that. You have to grow up, guys, because there will be a time you cannot look back and regret and say, oops, I want to go to a higher dimensional frequency of earth. This one, I don't like it so much. Too fucking late. You will reach a time in the not too distant future. And oh my God, I don't care if it's 1 year from now, a year and a half, or if it's a full 3 years from now. I guarantee you when that time comes, it's going to feel like it happened. It was over in minutes. It will not feel like you had a full year, year and a half, 3 years to get there. It will feel like you had 3 minutes to make your choice. So choose right fucking now. Make sure you give us a like. Make sure you subscribe so you get the notifications. And make sure you subscribe to the type of dimensional frequency, the type of earth you want to end up on when that time comes. You have to do the work to become what you want to experience in your environment on the planet around you. You have to become that. Do you understand? Okay. If you want resources, grab Mason's Way, grab it on Amazon, the 20 Universal Ways of Oneness. Go to mastersofselfuniversity.com. Get our free coaching consultations to find out how you can become what I'm talking about, what I'm sharing with you. Check out 2024, our live events that are going to be happening in 2024. Okay. It won't be long from now where you'll see them on the website, mastersofselfuniversity.com, where you can attend events they'll be held right now in San Diego, California, in the United States. Okay. That you can come and attend them. So pay attention, check the website for our live events that we will be offering. We're here at Masters of Self University. We're here. I am here to help you get there, to choose whatever earth you want to create for yourself. I'm here to help you get there. I'll give you the guidance. That's what I'm here for. I am a teacher of oneness consciousness. The earth dimension that I am creating is an earth of oneness consciousness. That is the dimensional earth that I am creating, that I am becoming, that I will end up on. What you want to do is 100% up to you. Do you understand? It is 100% up to you. You don't have to go live in that enlightened. You can go live in any type of dimension you want to live on. You have free will choice. Your choice is not wrong or bad. I'm not here to judge anybody's earth that they want to create for themselves, life for the rest of their life, where they want to end up. That's 100% up to you. I'm not here to judge. What I am here to offer to you as a teacher of oneness consciousness is how to get to the earth I'm going to. If that's what you want to become, I'm here to show you how to do it. That's what this earth is all about, that is being created for those of us who want to end up on an earth like that, okay? In a dimension like that. That's all. It's 100% your choice. Okay, so how can you take action steps and be specific in how to create and make sure you end up on the dimension that you want to get to? That is now in part 2. Let me give you one tip before I say goodbye. If fear comes up when I say that to you, you need to alchemize that fear. Drop into your heart, connect to the center of the center of the center of your heart. You can do that right this goddamn minute. Energetically alchemize the fear. There's nothing to be afraid of, literally nothing. You are a powerful, magnificent, divine being. You come from oneness consciousness, source consciousness. You come from nothing but the light, for crying out loud. Connect to the light that you are and alchemize your fears. You can at least start there. All right. So stay tuned. Wait for next week for the release of part 2, 2024 predictions part 2, where I'm going to go into detail about how to ensure you are becoming the vibrational frequencies. You're not accidentally choosing lower negative vibrational frequencies and end up on a dimension that you don't want to end up on once that timeline comes for us. And that's it. You're there for good. That's a permanent decision at some point. Remember that. So listen for part 2, like, subscribe, share with everyone you know. I would so appreciate if you shared this out. Please do that. And I'll see you in part 2. Thanks for listening.